I'm Jo Stephenson. I am one of the Sport Quest hosts. I'm also a fly tyer, and I prefer to tie my own flies when I'm going on trips targeting a specific species. I feel it just gives me that little bit of extra achievement when I've caught a fish on a fly that I have tied myself. So I put together this little arrangement of videos to showcase some of the flies that I feel are really important to have in your armoury when you're targeting a specific species. Now I'm going to start with bonefish flies, and you may be an old hand at tying, but it's your first trip after a bonefish and you're looking for patterns that you need to take with you, or you've never tied a fly in your life and you just want to have a go, and that's fine. So we're going to start with the Christmas Island Special, which is a really simple fly to tie, and I think it is a really important one to have in your fly box. So let's just go through some of the fundamental parts of this fly. As you can see, it's weighted. It has some dumbbell eyes, so we'll obviously be using dumbbell eyes, and this one I'm going to tie with some bead chain eyes. If you want something heavier, then go for a heavier variant of eye. It obviously depends on what depth of water you're fishing, but it is really important to have maybe a range of weights in your fly box. Obviously the kind of backbone of any fly is the hook that you use. So it's important to have a really strong saltwater hook for bonefish. They are really strong fish, they will tug, so you obviously don't want the fish to strain your hook or to break it. So I will just go through some of the hooks that I like to use. So I'm really liking this Sprite saltwater single at the moment. Also a couple by Partridge. You've got the Sea Prince, which is a really good saltwater hook, or you've got the Wide Gape, which is one of their newer saltwater hooks with CS120. This one, as it suggests, does have a wider gape, it has a shorter shank, and it does have a hook that's off kilter, whereas the Sprite and the Sea Prince are both straight hooks. So I'm going to tie it on a Sprite today just for ease of demonstration, so it's easier to see, because an offset hook does obviously sit offset on the vise as well. So I'm going to use a size 6. Just going to pop that in the vise. Okay, so some other materials you're going to need is some crystal flash, and I've got this in a UV tan, and then you're just going to need the winging material. So there's a whole range of different winging materials you can use. If you want to go synthetic, you've got craft fur, which is quite popular. I think it's a little bit coarser than some, but it obviously remains a bit stiffer when it's in the water, but it does flow nicely. Then if you want something really soft and synthetic, you could go for something like this H2O Slinky Fibre, I think it's called, or a Magic Carpet or something like that. It's really, really slinky as it looks, very shiny, and that flows a little bit like marabou in the water. And if you want to go for something natural, you've got the choice of calf tail. This is a really popular one for bonefish flies. I've got this in tan, or you could try a white. Or one of my favourites is rabbit zonker. Again, I've got this in tan. You just cut a chunk of that off, and that works really nicely too. Obviously you need to get some decent thread. I tend to use something like nano silk, a gel spun thread, just because it's strong and I can be quite heavy handed, and I don't want my thread to snap, but whatever you're comfortable using will be absolutely fine. Okay, let's get started. So to start with the Christmas Island Special, as with any fly, you need to get your thread onto the hook. So whip that on. And we're going to take the thread to approximately 1/3 of the way from the eye. So you need a little bit of space between the eye and the dumbbells to tie your wing material down. So about 1/3 of the way back, make a little bubble, like so, and then we're going to do one diagonal wrap and then do another bubble, and that's created the seat for your eyes to go in. Okay, So select your eyes, hold them up parallel to the hook, wrap over once and let go. And they should sit nicely in that little gap. Then we're going to do some figure 8 tying to secure the eyes down. So you're going to go over, under and over, just like an X. Make sure they're sitting nice and level. And you could do all one way, but do make sure you go back the other way. So I'd say about 10 to 20 wraps over the eyes. And then before you carry on, we're then going to wrap around the eye, so going under the eye, over the shank, under the eye and over the shank. And what that's doing is it's pulling all those X wraps that we've just done over the eyes together, pulling them nice and tight together and holding those dumbbells or that bead chain eye in place. That's nice and solid. But if you want to give it a little bit more security, you could stick a little bit of super glue on that as well now. So wrapping all the way down to the bend. Lovely. You want to get a little bit of crystal flash, say about 7 or 8 strands, I would say I've got there. Okay. Okay, wrap those in. Secure those down. Okay. Pull this forward, or back as it were, and take your thread up to just in front of your eyes. So we're going to start to pull that up a little bit, and that, as you start to pull, will flatten out. So we're going to start wrapping that around to cover up the thread. It sometimes can be a bit tricky to keep it all in one place. You can see there I've tried to separate. So wrapping it round nice and tight, it's going to pull nice and straight. All the way down. Okay, now over and under. We stop, don't pull quite so tight at this point. So in line, wrap over once, wrap over twice. We're then going to pull this back and wrap up to the eyes. Lovely, and leave it there. Just tidy up the nose a little bit. Perfect. Okay, so we're just going to do a bit of tidying now before we turn the fly over. So I want the tail to be just shy of a hook length, so about the length between the eye and the bend. Flip your fly over, and we've got our ready-made flash here. So you want that to come roughly at the same length as the tail. Just cut that at slightly different lengths. Lovely job. Okay, so we've got one more thing to do before the fly is finished. Yeah, I told you it was fairly simple. So I'm going to use some tan calf tail. So you want to cut a chunk. And then just pick out the fluff and the end bits. And then I like to twizzle it between my thumb and finger and pull out any bits that are short and shouldn't be there. Okay. So then we're going to offer up to the hook to get the length correct. So we want it to be roughly in line with our flash, not quite as long as the tail. So about there. So hold that with your thumb and finger and tidy up the ends. Now some people prefer to do this afterwards. I like to do it beforehand. I think it makes it easier to make it neater. If you're having to snip all this off at the end, you just never seem to get it quite as spot on as you could do if you did it beforehand. Okay, so holding that down in line with the hook. Little tip here. Okay, so bring in your fibres down to the hook shank. Bring your thread up. Push it between your fingers and nip that thread, and then when you come down onto the other side, just slowly let go of it, and it will catch in your thread. You're catching your fibres, and that way you're keeping everything very neat and it doesn't slip off and you end up with the fibres all over the floor. Lovely. Okay, so that's in place. So we just need to make sure we're tidied up everywhere, make sure you've got all your fibres wrapped in, and you just want to do your whip finish. So one, and then finish with a little bit of varnish, and then once the varnish has dried, would recommend just doing a little coat of UV if you can. Not the end of the world if not, just do a couple more varnishes otherwise, but UV just makes it so much more durable, so that it won't fall apart after one massive hit from a bonefish. Okay, so that's it. That is the Christmas Island special. Like I said, very simple, 2 different materials and sorted. So I hope you have fun tying that, and good luck.